know, today has been one of those great days where you find a chamber member comes in to try and support the chamber. We had Client Focus Solutions who came in and looked at where the SI 68 is going and what they can do to the business community. I mean, it's been very enlightening, it's been a very powerful day, and this is what we're looking for as a chamber, where we have organizations like Client Focus Solutions come in with a solution that's going to help the business community, to help them grow. And that is something that we're looking forward to seeing more and more with more of these partners. Thank you so much.
Wow, it's been such a humbling experience. We've just done with the Bankability Masterclass with the Kitwe District Chamber of Commerce, where we shared ideas to do with what it means to be bankable. First of all, why is it so critical that you become bankable? Because whilst SI 68 has created the opportunity, finally what will make it have legs, and for the locals, for the local entities, growing businesses to execute on it, is if we can have the right capital come through. And as CFS, we shared, look, we are there to help prepare you throughout the whole value chain. We can curate, we can prepare you in terms of accessing. So on one hand, we can prepare you and make sure that you are bankable. We put everything else in place, and then move you and link you up with our partners who've come along. So the capital is there, but you need to be ready. You need to demonstrate that you are ready too. So let's talk, let's meet, and let's make this a reality. We're thinking the bankability is the major issue.
Apologies for starting the program slightly late. As you can see, it was due to some technical issues. We are now ready to start. Let me start by recognizing the presence of the President of the Kitwe District Chamber of Commerce and Industry, my dear brother, Mr. Adinani Simimba, Executive Committee members present here, Secretariat staff, Senior Partner from Client Focus Solutions, Chartered Accountant, dear brother Crispin Daka, other partners from our Client Focus Solutions, Chartered Accountant, present here. I see my dear brothers, Japheth Tembo, Christian Love present. Let me also recognize the presence of our past president of the Kitwe District Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I recognize your presence, Mr. Tom Kamwendo. We are pleased to have you in our midst. Let me also recognize the presence of our partners, GIP, Z, Diana Mkonda, all the way from Lusaka. We are grateful that you made it to this function. Our invited guests, the business community on the Copper Belt, the media. Let me simply say all protocols observed. A big hand to all of you. And a very good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure to warmly welcome you to this breakfast mastermind for the business community here on the Copper Belt. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be part of this important gathering. Your presence this morning reflects a shared commitment to collaboration, innovation, and continued growth of our business environment in the region. My name is Ruben Kamanga, Director, Acquisition at Client Focus Solutions, Chartered Accountant, and I'll be serving as your Master of Ceremony today. This session has been designed to be more than just a breakfast meeting. It is a platform for meaningful engagement. Underline, platform for meaningful engagement, where members of the business community can exchange ideas, discuss challenges, explore opportunities that enable us to grow stronger together. The mastermind format allows us to draw from collective experience, practical insights, and shared wisdom. We encourage open participation, constructive dialogue, and networking throughout the session. The real value this morning lies not in the structured discussions, but also in the relationship and connections we build around the table when we're having our breakfast. Once again, thank you for being part of this gathering. I look forward to a productive, insightful, and impactful morning together. Give me a big hand. We waited for long, but we're not going to wait any longer. Let me start by inviting to the podium our host, my dear brother once again, the President of the Kitwe District Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Adinani Smunga, to give us welcome remarks. A big hand for him.
I must confess, the moment I walked into here, the first thing that I had a comment from, sorry, I have to say this before I even read what was actually drafted from me in a way. I walked in and the first thing that my two elders talked about was punctuality. The last time we had a function, past President Kamwendo actually wanted to play this video clip of the Japanese Prime Minister running because he was late. And then again, we went into a conversation because I know Mr. Katoto, Vice President, really, speaks about time management. And I think even the way to be bankable or anything bankability, time management, time is very, 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 very important. That said, then we went into a conversation. It comes back to me. I was, yesterday, very embarrassing. I'm driving, coming here quickly, saying I'm running late, there's traffic on the road. I get here, there's no one. Then I look at my message from him, it says, but my dear brother and president, the meeting is tomorrow. so I came very early because I came in yesterday. So that's it. Good morning. Okay, really, on behalf of the Kitwe District Chamber of Commerce, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this breakfast mastermind meeting. I'm encouraged to see such a diverse gathering. For some time, I can say that we had our team from Client Focus who have continued to say that they would like to present to us and be a part of the chamber, part of the community, so that they can help us move to another level. And really, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the Client Focus group and their partners for this event this morning. For us as a chamber, we're very, very grateful. Thank you so much. really it's encouraging to see the different people that we have. I had an opportunity to walk the tables and just to say hi and get to know who's here. It's really a pleasure that we get to have people from diverse backgrounds. You know, the Copper Belt has endured a difficult period in recent years, really marked by reduced activity, delayed payments, of course, low liquidity, uncertainty in the mining sector. Yet today, we're beginning to witness some recovery. You can see there is some mining activities that are taking place. We're going to see some momentum happening. With this new activity, confidence is slowly returning to our local economy. As our production improves and investment flows back in, I just had a conversation on the table so that I tend to digress. We got to meet Ms. Diana Ponda, and you know, in the conversation, when we talk about investment, I heard about something that I did not know, and you know, it is through such networking that you get to hear about the great things that are happening. And I'm sure the investment people coming in, they have seen something is happening around. Really, the revivals, warehouses, transport facilities, and the wide, and then you know, there's a person like me that is your captive market. As business leaders, we must position ourselves really to participate in meaningful opportunities rather than remain spectators. Now, I think one of the biggest things that we can always talk about is the issue of the recent enactment of the SI 68, the local content, through the geological mineral development local content regulation, which marks really a turning point. These regulations prioritize Zambia's goals and services in the mining sector, aiming to empower citizens, own businesses within the mining chain. And we really need to push this and encourage everybody to be a part of this wave of change. This is really a significant opportunity, but it requires preparation. We must formalize our businesses, raise standards, build capacity, and foster collaboration. Partnerships, joint ventures, you know, and subcontracting and supplier networks will be very, very essential to see this great enactment really gain fruition. So local content must not only remain a policy on paper, it must translate into real opportunities, jobs, skill development, and wealth creation for Zambians, especially here on the Copper Belt. And I'm sure we're all passionate about the Copper Belt because we're here. We could have moved elsewhere, but we continue to stay here. I know I've got a brother here and a sister sitting in the corner there, and they're very, very passionate. There's an engineer in accounting, and yesterday we were laughing about things, about business. And Mr. Kalumbi says, you know what, I've got somebody who's always watching how I spend, and I'm the one that's pushing the business as an engineer. So here it is, we have people who are very passionate about business on the Copper Belt. As the chamber, our mission is to see more local businesses become compliant, competitive, and ready to supply not only to the mines but also to other large institutions. This requires strengthening financial records and tax compliance, corporate governance, business planning, quality standards, and access to finance. And this is where we see client focus really coming in to support us in that area. Meeting such is really vital. They provide knowledge, foster networks, and generate practical solutions that help businesses thrive. I extend my sincere gratitude really to Client Focus Solution. They're certified accountants, if you may want to know, for initiating this timely and valuable breakfast mastermind meeting. This platform enables the business community to learn, connect, and prepare the opportunities emerging across the Copper Belt. We encourage Client Focus Solutions to continue organizing such activities, which strengthen the ecosystem of professional support available to our businesses. And I really want to give an applause to them. I mean, this, as a chamber, is our first engagement where we have a member partner, well, Client Focus, who've pushed for this agenda. And for us, I think we can give them a round of applause for initiating this. They're the first ones with the enactment of the SI, and to try and see how best they can support the business community. So to Client Focus, thank you so much. In conclusion, I urge each and every one of you to take this meeting really seriously. Let us network and ask questions, share ideas, and explore ways to collaborate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President. Another round of applause for the President. The next presentation is an interactive one, so I encourage each one of you to participate, give ideas. It's not, we are not a church, so feel free to put up your hand and contribute. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the next presentation by my dear brother and senior partner at Client Focus Solutions Chartered Accountants, Mr. Crispin Daka.
I'm honored to be here and talk about this. I think we've been engaging the chamber for some time in this space so that we can see what we can do, because we see such a big opportunity. The President talks about the issue of how the Copper Belt is now just recovering. I've got a message. I was privileged to be on a discussion program for the Zambia South Africa Trade and Investment Forum. It was on the 6th of May in South Africa, Pretoria. And I've never been to a conference. I've been to quite a number, but I've never been to a conference, one, that was oversubscribed. They had to make sure that they bring people on through Zoom. And the other, the enthusiasm they had about Zambia was unbelievable. So I think I therefore treasure the people in this room for having endured what you had to endure in terms of the Copper Belt. But now that's the past. We now need to look forward and make sure that you can be repaid for your loyalty to the Copper Belt and execute on this opportunity. Yeah, so thank you very much for that, and I feel so privileged, actually. And to be honest, what I'm going to share is not, it's probably things that you already know, but maybe we'll just put it into context. Maybe before I even go into the presentation, I just want to talk about why Client Focus is actually doing this. So we are a firm of chartered accountants. We are a group of 5 in terms of the leadership team, and 4 of us are actually chartered accountants who are signing partners and registered with Zika. And I'm so privileged to be working with all Zambian and very professional, world-class people, because this was one of the visions that I had. So if I were to give a bit of my background, is that I started off, I'm now almost 30 years in the profession. I started off with PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I went all the way to assistant manager, and then I was poached effectively. So to cut a long story short, my experience has been, I've been a partner with BDO. I've worked in industry as an FD with companies like Engine, BSI Steel. And then roundabout circa 2012, I decided I needed to get into a space where we would build a Zambian firm that would service Zambians. I discovered that in my time that I was mostly in corporate and the international firms, there was a huge underserviced and yet hard-working people. And there were two groups. There were one, entrepreneurs like yourselves. You've sacrificed a lot to build the businesses that you have now. However, when it came to being serviced from a professional level, being given the support, obviously most of those services by the international firms, and it's how they are structured, were unaffordable. So we wanted to come up with a platform that we would use, where we would build, we would not compromise on quality, but we would be able to service the people that we know drive this economy. Yeah? If you look at the business, including the issue of employment, and where we even have employment growth, it's actually in the growing businesses. I don't like calling it SMEs, I want to call it growing businesses. That's where the potential is to even create employment for our people. Unlike the established big businesses or organizations, which are pretty much optimizing at their level. So that's when circa 2012, I decided to go and partner up with other Zambian professionals who had come from big four firms. We decided, let's set up an indigenous firm that can do this. Obviously, we've moved from there, but that's where I met my founder for CFS, which is now CFS. By then, he was working for me. But I'm so proud to say that, we've grown together to the point where they are now sitting at the table with me. To be honest, I've even moved out from managing the firm and left it out to people like JT, RK, and the rest to run with the firm. And we are a very sizable firm, employing almost 80 staff at where we are. So I'm so proud that we've reached that stage. And why I've told that story is because when we saw this, we then said, okay, how can we leverage our skill set and what we have done in business and our interaction, especially with growing businesses over the past years. That is almost 10 years that I've been doing this, especially me. How can we share this so that we can prepare and empower the growing businesses to execute on this opportunity? And that's the first problem we are seeing. In fact, we're not seeing it as a problem, we're seeing it as a challenge. The first challenge that we are seeing with the SI. So the SI has created captive demand. Some estimates that are there are, when you look at it from the 20% or thereabouts, some of them are actually 100% local content. Some just plan. At the bottom in the small print, they'll say this is not a guarantee that we're going to give we're going to allocate this for local content, but you need to meet this. So they talk about technical and all that. One of them is financial capacity. So if we don't resolve the issue of the financial capacity, then this opportunity will still pass us by. The same thing that happened to the, because this has been done before. There was the opportunity to do with subcontracting for infrastructure projects. It's still there. But why did that not translate into economic growth so that by now we would have been seeing local construction firms becoming main contractors? Why didn't it happen? So the 20% didn't happen, at least from what we were able to observe in terms of the contracts that we saw. It didn't work because there was no financial capacity. So they would give a subcontractor the contract because the main contractor was required to. But meanwhile, the subcontractor had no capacity to finance it. And what happened? We ended up selling. So most of our local brothers and sisters in the construction, they ended up selling the contract back to the main contractor with no value actually retained as a local. So that risks to happen if we don't deal with it. We want to spend too much time bringing that in because I think it's a well-known factor. I'm speaking to the converted. Then we're talking about what capital is needed. What is the right debt mindset? How does bankability close the gap? What prevents suppliers from executing? Why debt is powerful and dangerous? And what separates winners from losers? And what should we do in the next 10 years? This is percent plus. It's going to go up to 40% in 5 years. And then there's also the 15%. And this is the other bit that's not being 15% of a foreign supplier. And it's very important that you know about this because you might end up losing bids or where you're putting in a bid on account of your price being higher, when in fact it was not high based on the regulation because you are allowed to be within 15%. Okay? And I think I've brought this out where I'm saying the message here really is the market opportunity is not the same thing as growth unless we can do something about it. Yeah? So this presentation will actually be shared. We can go into the details. So the gate is wide open. But bankability, and I'll demonstrate why, for me, is the only thing that we need to leverage on now to make sure that we go through that gate. Okay? Again, on the working capital trap, well-known fact, we are talking of, for you to show financial capacity to deliver on this, you probably need to have stock, 30 days stock. You need to have, to give credit, 60 to 90. We understand sometimes with some of these mines it's even going to 120. Yeah? And you probably don't even have, you might need to give a supplier deposit to start something, or you don't even have any supplier finance. So your working capital ends up being a multiplier of whatever order you have for you to continue supporting such. Okay? The bigger opportunity though, and this is what I got from the conference, the bigger opportunity, and this is where we also need to start thinking, now that you are the incumbents, what else, and the relationships that you have, what else can you go into? And for me, the major issue, and this is the one we really want to drive where there's bigger value, is the issue of import substitution. The issue of working capital, the orders and everything else in the short term, yes, it helps us build up those reserves, but what is key is the import substitution. And that's why we're privileged to have in our midst our partners, presented by Dan there from JPZ, should tell you a bit more. We can guarantee anyone, and people in South Africa, we are clamoring. We do pumps, we do this, we do this, we do this. There are partners in South Africa who are clamoring, and this is where I need networks. Please reach out, maybe even through the chamber. If you can reach out to the trade attaché in the, I can even share the contact in South Africa, Pretoria. What I'm talking about South Africa is they are closer to us and they even have structures. So we have structures in terms of managing their international trade investment that would partner with to actually localize or even execute. So you might not be dealing with it in it right now, but if you've got a relationship, these are some of the projects you can start looking at, so that you can bring in some of these partners to start producing here, partially or the whole thing. And that's where the biggest value is. The biggest value there, the biggest winner is the mining entities. Now they have a supply chain which is much more reliable in terms of lead times and everything else. You become the natural choice. Yeah? So it's a big opportunity, and I would think, for all the people who are around here, let's start thinking about all these projects and the people, leverage those relationships, leverage them, so that you can come up with projects. I'll tell you one thing, maybe even Dana will confirm on this. Actually, capital is there. The only thing that's missing right now is viable projects. Zambia is aiming for the 3 million tons by 2031 or 2030, 2031, whichever year we want to pick up. What comes with that is so big, especially in terms of infrastructure. Right now, even in the last meeting we had, and that's why even our president was presumably late, but to aim for this meeting yesterday. I'm sure it was because he was in traffic, and most of that traffic is related to trucks. So the road networks, when we are only at 890,000, maybe going to 1 million this year, cannot manage this. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to come in, and those are the projects. Let's have Zambians. It shouldn't all be foreigners are the people who promoted these projects. You have the relationships. You have the relationships that you can speak to and leverage on. Then we can come together and speak to these funders to see how, even if you had on such big projects, we have a Zambian getting a 10% or 5% share in that project. Look at the people who got into CEC, for instance, right? In terms of where it is. What has my network. What does my network allow me to do? And we'll be there to support you on a lot of these in terms of consummating some of these ideas, because we've actually, that's the space we're trained in. But if you can dream it, I'm sure we can have a go at it and see and build. It would be nice if we can realize some big projects from this room, from this opportunity. And for me, it can only come from import substitution. Why bankability? When it comes to capital, there are only two. Yes, there can be variations in between. And there is debt. So you can say owner's money and other people's money. Then there is also a supply dynamic. In terms of supply, even all the people I spoke to, and this is not just for Zambia, but this is for Africa, but even anywhere else for the size of businesses that we have, the one that is in abundant supply is actually debt and not equity. Equity, yes, you can attract it, but you can attract it much later. You have to be a CEC, for instance, to go and list and work hard. That's when you can start attracting such high levels of equity, right? But even CEC, if you look at their balance sheet, you find that there is a significant portion of their balance sheet in terms of their project finance, which is debt. So we can't run away from debt. If we are going to grow significantly, then we need to make sure, like to anything that will have of any impact, then we have to have leverage debt. Okay? So we can't run away from it. That's what it is. Okay? So the question of whether you need debt or not, for me, if your ambition is to grow and scale, it means you need debt. Without it, forget about it. Yeah? Okay. That's it. However, like they said, with everything else, every good thing has its ups and downs, right? It has, so debt can be a very powerful thing. It can make our dreams come true, but it can also sink us. It can, I've seen families mortgage their inheritance, so that like you wipe out generational wealth because of debt. Yeah? So we need to manage it. And just like, and for me, and this is the philosophy I subscribe to, just like life, utilizing debt is a game. So when it comes to any game, because any game has got winners and losers, right? But what determines winners and losers in a game? What do you think? Committed to what you want to do. Okay. Any strategic plan? Any other ideas? Managing risk. For me, and you are all right actually, but for me, the first thing is you need to know the rules. Yeah? So that you know which game you are playing. Because otherwise, you will just stand with a goalkeeper and shoot. That guy is scoring in a goal. Cashflow scoring into your own goal. Yeah? You need to know the rules. Because once you know the rules, then you can now do the strategic plan, you can do the risk assessment and management, you know, you can do the commitment, you can commit to executing. So the most important thing is know the rules. And for me, so what I'm going to share here is that, so in the past 14 years or so that I've been focusing on just working with great businesses. I've worked with businesses where we are involved right from the start of setting up a project. We go and finance and even help them run, or they go and run on their own, and we're just touching. So we can help in just the finance raising, and they go and run with it. We've also been involved in what is called distressed assets. So they are calling us when things have gone wrong. Okay? I didn't want to use the hit the fan kind of technology, but that's when we are called in. So because of that, there are some patterns that we have noticed in terms of the two sides, the winners and the losers. There is very consistent characteristics in terms of decisions and temperament, in terms of how they play the use of debt games. All right. Debt winners versus debt losers. Let me give a very small example. Madam, do you have a dream car? Obviously, a dream car means that you don't have it now. So don't tell this, they want our back. Yeah, what's your dream car?
My dream car is a Range Rover.
Range Rover? Which one? Vogue or those? You know, there's Vogue, there's Vela, there's.
No, being female, I don't know the specific.
Unless you just get badge of the range. No, that makes sense. Okay, so that's your dream car, right? So let's assume I also have my dream car as a Range Rover. So right now we are both in one scenario, because you can't afford it right now, right? And I can't afford it probably right now. So the way debt would come in would be, if you really wanted the Range Rover, what would you do? If you really wanted to get the Range Rover, yeah.
You get a loan. Yes, you get a loan so that you can be able to finance like that car.
That car. And then I also want a Range Rover, and then I decide, you know what kind of asset can I buy? Can I buy using a loan that will give me enough money to pay the loan to buy a Range Rover? So who's going to get the Range Rover right now, and who's going to get the Range Rover in the future?
I'm going to get it now.
I'm
going to get it
in the future. And that's the difference. So we've all, and the bank doesn't care. To be honest, they'll come and assess you. So your mindset from what you said was, can I afford a loan from what I'm earning and my future earnings? Can I afford a loan to buy a Range Rover? And the answer, and the bank is going to assess that and probably say, oh yes, what's your name, madam?
Lushomo.
Oh yes, Lushomo, Madam Lushomo, you qualify to buy a Range Rover. I need to invest, maybe I want to invest into a business, you know. If I invested this into my business, to create this much cash flow so that maybe in 3 years, again it can't be like that, right? Maybe in 3 years or in 4 years, I'll be able to, and we'll both start paying. So we'll both get that money from the bank, and the bank won't care. They'll give you, and they'll give me. So we'll start paying towards that loan. At the end of us paying that loan, who's better off and who's the winner and who's the loser?
You are the winner.
I'm the winner because I've got an asset, and now I can even afford. I've got an asset that can give me cash flow to buy. So the difference in mindset there is thinking in terms of consumption versus. So there is instant gratification versus delayed gratification. That's the first thing. So winners and losers, you actually see that. They start thinking, I had a client who, because the business was doing so well, they won a bigger contract. In fact, it was not even like a bigger contract. The business was just doing so well. I can even say the thing they were doing it there. They were in the Chibuku space, right? So they were making just so much money. And then they decided, okay, all the directors should have that was the time that Ford Rangers just came out. They decided, they went to the bank. In fact, I don't know whether it's the bank who approached them or they went to the bank, because the banks can tempt you, right? So they went to them and said, can we, or they went to the bank and said, can you please help us buy 5 Rangers, yeah, for each one of the directors. And the bank, of course, assessed and said, based on your cash flow and your whatever, your track record, you can afford the repayments. They are more interested in the repayments and whether you have secured that asset, right? And they went and did that. Meanwhile, their plant was getting into disrepair, and they were in good times. But when the bad times hit, they didn't even have money to reinvest back into the plant. And it was one of the assets that we had to go and repossess. Okay? So you can see it's a business, you are thinking it's a business decision, but even as a business, you can actually borrow for consumption instead of borrowing for productive. For me, what would have been the best decision would have been to say, how do we, now that we can afford this money, how do we scale our operations so that we can increase our production? And from there, we should be able to afford paying for these vehicles, isn't it? So first of all, have an asset which supports, and this works even on a personal level. Never borrow for consumption. Borrow for something. So if you are borrowing, if you want a liability that you are going to get, which is like something which is consumption, first of all, build an asset that can deal with that before you can proceed. In fact, in my other life, I like talking about personal finances. And if somebody really wants a car, I tell them, okay, is this the repayment you have for the car? Okay, then you need to double it. So that as you are paying for the car, I want you to open a fixed deposit account where you should be taking an equivalent amount. Yeah? And then we have a conversation. Then you say, no, I can't afford to do that. That means you can't afford this car. Isn't it? And things like that. Sorry for sidetracking. But that's the thing. So the key issue is, I think go back. I was talking about. Yeah. So the key issue is the losers and winners there is borrowing for consumption. Yeah, borrowing for salaries is a no. Yeah? If you can't meet the salaries, then you need to look through the productivity of your salary, of the input into that salary pot, right? Because if you can go the whole month and you are not even able to raise enough money to meet your own salaries, then you have big problems. And if you decide to even go and get debt to deal with that, then that's quicksand. That's borrowing for consumption as a business, right? Borrowing under pressure. Never borrow under pressure. Borrow when you have a project in mind. If you are under pressure and you are saying, I've got no choice but to borrow, that's the wrong time to do it. Yeah? I've never seen anybody who's actually been successful as a winner in the debt game if they borrowed when they were under pressure. The other thing is you need to know the numbers. So debt doesn't come. So first of all, the banks, the finance, the funds, and everybody else, the money that they have is not their money, right? They also have somebody who's given them that money, who's expecting a return. So there's a cost to what they are getting. So, and they have a responsibility to the people who's giving them that money to ensure that they protect that capital. So they can't give it without checking, covering all their bases and that it's protected. So they are going to give it with a cost obligation. So now you can decide, do you want the bank to be your partner in the growth, or do you want to be an employee who's waiting for the bank? Okay? Because they will hold us. They will hold pretty much your dear assets. They will hold them at ransom. And you have no wiggle room. You have no option but to pay, to prioritize it. Isn't it? So you need to know your numbers. So, and again, it even links to the issue of going under. Because if you're going into debt under pressure, then you won't even be looking at, can I sustain this debt? And you therefore need to know your numbers. What are your margins? Right? What profits am I making? So understanding those statements, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow is very, very important, even before you even get into debt. And you must have a record of it, isn't it? If you are, so what the losers, we find they don't even know. They don't even know what impact the loan has on their business if they take it on. Because they just want it to resolve a problem. Yeah. So you need to know what are your margins, what are the cash cycles, how are they coming? And this is information that you can even now discuss, and I think she will talk about it, where you can go and engage with your lender and say, look, for me, this is how my business works. This is how my cash works. So can we structure something? So don't give me boilerplate thing that you give everybody else. Give me something that responds to my business. Because every business is different, right? But most of the people don't even know what's happening with their numbers. And those are the ones it because it punishes you significantly. Repayment cover. We encourage everyone to look at least having a 3 to 6 months cash cover, OPEX cover. And if you have debt, include even some debt repayment in there. Build it up. Because life happens. Has anyone ever? Yeah. So Murphy's Law, it might even sound very pessimistic. The guy says, whatever can go wrong will, and in terms of debt, that's the mindset we should have. You should plan for the downside. If so, that scenario analysis has to be performed where you say, if my revenue dropped this much, if my expenses went up this much, if whatever, we call it scenario analysis, right? We need to stress test, and you need to plan for the downside so that you're able to say, look, the worst case scenario is this. And why we talk about a cash or repayment cover of 3 to 6 months is that, again, it's not empirical, but generally for most entrepreneurs and business leaders, most problems which are like within their control, they are able to resolve them within a period of 90 days to, if it goes beyond that, then it's a case that you probably don't have control over that fact. Like, for instance, COVID. If COVID impacted us and it went for that long, beyond 6 months, then you now start saying, look, now this is becoming an act of God. But within that, that's why you need that, because, anything can happen. And all the things you think, whatever, just include them. If they can it, then always have it. And the winners always have that buffer. And I know this, even on a personal level, I say, on the personal level, I call it FU fund. Right? On a personal level, you need to have an FU fund where it starts, like in the Zambian context. If you don't have it, at least, have a starter, which is, maybe 5,000 kwacha to 10,000 kwacha. Because there are so many things that are going to happen that you need to respond to. And you shouldn't be sure it's something which is 1,000 or 1,500. You should be going for Mongol. No. That's being a loser in the dating, right? Sorry for sidetrack, but I'm very passionate. And then later on a personal level as well, at least have even in whatever form you are in, whether you're a business owner or an employee, at least have 3 to 6 months for me of cover. Because you never know. If you're an employee, something happens, at least you have 3 months to see what you can do. Yeah? And your lifestyle doesn't change. Or 6 months. Yeah. Yeah. Of the whole thing. We'll share this slide in terms of, again, we're simply just saying this is what we need to do on the different sides. Yeah. So, all you know, and I wanted to bring this thing up, is that we can talk about all these other issues, building a system, building a systems-driven business. That's very important. Don't have dependence on people. Your most trusted member of staff, and I'm sure maybe you can relate to this, the person you actually thought This one, I found them when they knew nothing. I've taught them everything. And just when you need them, that's when they leave. You have poured into them, and then they leave. That's the big risk to carry as a business. So instead of pouring into people, you need to pour into a system. So they say, don't employ people to grow your business or do something in your business. No, employ people to buy your time so that you can build this, you can build the systems that can be run by anyone, because you are the best person. You know how it's done. They may not do it 100% your way, but at least if they did it 80%, that's very good, isn't it? And building systems is simply just documenting what you know. And that's where we come in. We've got developed tools that where you can download pretty much everything, how you do anything. And we'll bring it down into a system, practical system, not a standard operating procedure that somebody else knows how you execute. We can even help you do some implementation and training so that even when you're onboarding a person, a new person has come through, this is what you take them through to make sure that they're able to produce consistent results for you. So we're able to help you in that space. Self-tracking, like sustain, in terms of your, again, how that feeds into bankability is that this is what bankers want to see. You need to show them that your income is stable, your margins are stable. So which means you need to have, proper records, right? Management accounts, financial statements. These are all the key inputs that they need in terms of making sure that they understand. Issue of the pipeline. Let me just spend a little bit of time on this one, because sometimes this is where we lose a lot of value. You need to know, especially, for a number, from what I understood here is you've been in business for quite a while now. We need to know what is your sales math. How many inquiries translate into whether you put in proposals or orders, quotations, and how many of those actually do you win? You need to know. Because once you know that math, if you know that your conversion is very high, maybe in the ranges of 40-50%, almost everything you bid for you get, then you now start going backwards and saying, am I getting enough inquiries? If you're not getting enough inquiries, then say, how can I increase? That's how you come up with your sales strategy. How can I increase my sales by inquiries? And this is why now buying back your time from the business to make sure somebody else is handling it, and we can help you with that. Like some of them you can just outsource to us, because we can do run for you most of these admin support, so that you don't need to actually have physical people in there. But you need to know those so that we concentrate on that. So, okay, so how do I make sure that I get more inquiries? How do I diversify my portfolio and my focus? Yeah. Okay? I think we can safely say in there, sales evidence, financial records, compliance readiness, system discipline, risks and control, and growth plan. Those are the key things that will make you bankable if you have, so that you can have commercial proof, confidence, operational visibility, and cash flow. All right. I think some of these issues now, in terms of what we can we can share some of these issues actually in terms of we'll share the slides. I'm sure through the chamber that should be able to to go on, just go back on the. We have created partnerships for project finance, for instance, with GIPZ, and they've given us what their qualification criteria is. So if you are interested, or you are at that stage, or you want to know whether you qualify for input substitution, just please register with us, and then we'll engage with you. We've developed a assessment tool. Doesn't take more than 2 hours or so of our discussion with you. We should be able to get to a point where we can tell you where you are on that spectrum, and see whether they are a good partner for you to engage with, and should give a bit more details. Yeah. So what we've created a specific package to support this, and again, you can engage with us on it, where we are just focusing on that systematization, just going for the critical part of your businesses. The first one is the sales engine setup, and we've developed tools as well to make sure that we can even leverage on your historical data to tell you, to give you information and insights about your business, and then even support you. So we're calling it fractional CFO, because if we're giving you the full CFO experience, but of course without having a person stationed with you. And so here we help you do your budgets, we help you do your management accounts, we help you do your annual financial statements, we help you with your compliance, and if you have any tax issues, and for most of these we have great relationships like with the ZRA. We even ring-fence you from dealing with them. You have an issue, let us go and deal with them for you, and any other of these other places. So that's the fractional CFO. Yeah, so again, please, all those interested, you can let us know, and because we've also packaged this together with the Bankability. So we're looking at developing pipelines, which we are then going to fund us for, curated, where we're saying these ones want working capital, they want to resolve the working capital trap, but we are going to them when we are already prepared, yeah, and not when we are desperate. And then even for project input substitution, we have we are using this same platform as part of that package to go and approach, and we can introduce them. We have from the meeting that we had in South Africa with the Zambian High Commission there has been very, very supportive, and please, I'll share the details. If you want any direct inquiry, otherwise you can go through us. We can ask. We're not going to charge you for that. You can go through us if you have an idea and say, look, this is what I do, or this is a supplier I have, especially if you're in South Africa. This is a supplier I have in South Africa. I want us to start engagements and things like that. We can always use the trade desk there to facilitate and see how we can explore such opportunities. Thank you. I hope I didn't bore you too much.
At this point, I will invite our partners, Diana and Kunda, to give remarks. I promise you it will be within 5 minutes. Thereafter, we will go and get our breakfast. Diana, please. A round of applause.
This opportunity to just share a few things about growth investment partners. So just a quick poll. How many in the audience have heard about GIP or growth investment partners? Today, the president heard about it today. Another quick poll. How many in the room are entrepreneurs or own a business? Nearly everyone. And then how many own a business that make at least 10 million kwacha per annum? All right. No, thank you very much. So, Growth Investment Partners is really a very new, unique investment company that was set up last year by the British International Investments, formerly known as the CDC Group. I'm sure most of you have heard about CDC. They were the DFI, or Development Financial Institution, that put up Mandahill in Lusaka, that set up Chilanga Cement, and they are the largest shareholder in Zambia. So they've been doing business in Zambia for the past, for over nearly 100 years, probably, I don't know. And then they set up Growth Investment Partners together with the Swedish Wealth Fund, Swedfund, and with the National Pension Scheme, NAPSA. So those are our three shareholders. And the mandate is that we must invest, we must provide growth capital, flexible capital to medium-sized entities. Or we are trying to avoid to use the word small, because small means different things to different people. So I think to be on the safe side, we're focusing on medium-sized entities. And the reason is that a study had been done, and it was discovered that most SMEs really, there's a funding gap in the market. Most SMEs can't really get the growth capital that they need when their businesses need to scale. When they go, the most available funding that is available in this market is offered through the banks. And when SMEs go to banks, they usually get tenors and requirements that they can't meet. So we've been given that mandate to provide growth capital with ticket sizes between $1 million to $5 million, and with tenors between 3 years to 7 years. We can look at 10 years exceptionally, and with lower collateral requirements. So the bulk of what we do when we are approached for funding is to look at your growth story, to look at your bankability, what Kristen was trying to explain. And if you can pass that, then we do not have to focus very much on collateral, but we do require some form of collateral. But another important thing that we've identified as we deal with medium businesses, or businesses that are looking to grow or scale, is that there's a lot of capacity building that's required. When you come to us, the only thing that we're requiring is that you should be operational, you should know your business very well, you should know your market opportunity, you should have strong operations that can be scaled up. Everything else we will work together to put in place. So with our funding, we also provide technical assistance. So if you need assistance to set up stronger financial management systems, we can assist with that. If you need assistance to set up environmental and social governance framework, we can do that. We also want businesses that last beyond the entrepreneur, the person that set up or founded the business. So governance frameworks are also very important. We do not want to have, I think Kristen mentioned about downside scenarios. You can be the one that has the relationships, the contracts, that know everything around that business. But if you dropped dead today, what happens to that business? So we are looking at long-term partnerships, we're looking at long-term funding. So governance structures are also very important, and we also provide that support to help you enhance or strengthen your existing governance structures. All we need is an entrepreneur who has a good opportunity, has a bankable business, and then we will work together to support that business in the long term. I think in the 5 minutes, there's a lot to share, there's a lot to say, but if you're interested in knowing more, the client focus team are here. I am here. You can always get as much information about Growth Investment Partners afterwards. But I will not be able to cover as much as I can during the 5 minutes that I have been given. Thank you very much. It's a real honor.
Let me now thank all of you for coming in numbers to listen to us. And I hope it was very useful and helpful. Like Crispin said, we'll send the presentation to you. It's free knowledge. to help enhance your business. But should you need our products and services, we talked about the services that we offer: audit, tax, accounting, secretarial, immigration, and other services. Please feel free to contact us. Before I conclude, I see a hand from the Vice President of the Chamber. Mr. Vice President.
Some companies in South Africa that will be willing, or which we can have contact through our trade attaché. Is it possible that you could share that information with us so that we know what sort of fields and products that they have? Because I think the truth of the matter is that when you look at our suppliers, I think it's mostly trading. And I think you emphasize points about import substitution, which can only come through production locally. So I think that list of contacts, I think, would be useful so that then, we can link it up with our suppliers and contractors who might not, migrate from trading to production.
Okay, thank you. Very big to us. We'll do the necessary, contact the people in South Africa and help you to be in contact. So we'll provide that information. Let's just engage as we have our breakfast. So thank you very much. Is there any other clarification? I see none. At this point in time, let me invite everyone to join us for breakfast. We can go and grab our breakfast outside, come back here. And as we sit, let's not just sit, we can still talk. I know that my brother, Mr. Smumba, says to me that you cannot talk with food in your mouth, but I'm sure we can have a conversation. So thank you very much. We can now go outside, grab our breakfast, and come back and continue the conversation. Thank you and good morning.
The President today followed the Japanese 5-minute rule, because he arrived 5 minutes before the stated time. About 65% of us were more than a minute late, which is a culture we need to change, especially as leading entrepreneurs of Kitwe. The organizers were almost ready on time. Then they got into a technical challenge. And we saw from the video, that's not an excuse. You must have your technical challenges long before the meeting is due to start. So please, at least as chamber members and entrepreneurs, let's start a culture change. The meeting starts at 8, be there 5 to 8. If traffic delays you for half an hour, start off from home an hour early. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really feel so honored to be here and talk about this. I think we've been engaging the chamber for some time in this space so that we can see what we do, quite a number. But I've never been to a conference, one, that was oversubscribed. They had to make sure that they bring people on through Zoom. And the other, the enthusiasm they had about Zambia was it's probably things that you already know, but maybe we'll just put it into context. Maybe before I even go into the presentation, I just want to talk about why Client Focus is actually doing this. So we are famous chartered accountants. Cut a long story short, my experience has been, I've been a partner with video. I've worked with entrepreneurs like yourselves. You've sacrificed a lot to build the businesses that you have now. However, and it's very important that you know about this because you might end up losing bids or where you're putting in a bid on account of your price. Let's assume I also have, you really wanted to get the Range Rover. Yeah.
Of what we're working with is we're looking at import substitution. So look for opportunities where we can start producing here. here. And it's easy now because you can go to South Africa and there's a lot of interest, or anywhere in the world, and say, let's start producing this and let me be your partner in Zambia. Let's produce this in Zambia, and then we've got this market because the law has provided the market. So that's why the SI is now a big ingredient in terms of business growth, because it enhances the business case. Crispin Daka, senior partner for